peer-reviewed tools that can help you fall asleep, sleep better, and emerge from sleep feeling more rested. Most people are aware that getting a really good night's sleep on a consistent basis is critically important, but most people don't know how to do that. In fact, I'm guessing that very few of you out there are consistently getting 7 to 9 hours of really terrific sleep, waking up feeling rested, like you're ready to attack the day, and being able to go through the day feeling focused and alert without dips in energy or focus. Inside all of us is a clock that exists in your brain and my brain and the brain of every animal that we're aware of that determines when we want to be sleepy and when we want to be awake. Just think about it. We don't go through the day wanting to fall asleep every 30 minutes and then feeling like we're wide awake. Our sleep and our period of sleepiness tends to be condensed into one block, typically one 6 to 10 hour block, although there's also variation in terms of how much people want to sleep. That block of sleep and when it falls within each 24-hour cycle is governed by a number of different things. But the most powerful thing that's governing when you want to be asleep and when you want to be awake is light. And in particular, it's governed by sunlight. How important and how actionable this relationship is between light and when you want to sleep. What's going on in your brain and body as you go through one 24-hour day? Let's start with waking. So regardless of how well you slept at night or whether or not you were up all night, most people tend to wake up sometime around when the sun rises. Maybe not right at sunrise, but within an hour or two or maybe 3 of sunrise. Now, I realize there are night shift workers and there are people traveling and experiencing jet lag where this is not going to be the case. But for most people, we tend to wake up about the time that the sun is rising or so. And as we do that, adenosine levels tend to be low if we've been asleep, and our system generates an internal signal that is in the form of a hormone. The definition of a hormone is it's a substance, a chemical, that's released from one organ in your body that goes and acts on other organs elsewhere in your body, including your nervous system. When you wake up in the morning, you wake up because a particular hormone called cortisol is released from your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands sit right above your kidneys, and there's a little pulse of cortisol. There's also a pulse of epinephrine, which is adrenaline, from your adrenals and also in your brain, and you feel awake. Now, that pulse of cortisol and adrenaline and epinephrine might come from your alarm clock. It might come from you naturally waking up, but it tends to alert your whole system in your body that it's time to increase your heart rate, it's time to start tensing your muscles, it's time to start moving about. It's very important that that cortisol pulse come early in the day, or at least early in your period of wakefulness. I say that because some people are waking up at 8 p.m. and are sleeping all day. But it's very important that that pulse of cortisol occur early in the day, that it happens all at once. It sort of sets a rising tide of cortisol in your system. Now, many of you have probably heard about cortisol in relation to stress. And indeed, as we go through our day and our life, different stressors, different events happen in our life that make us feel more alert. Some of the more stressful ones might be looking at your credit card bill and seeing what seems to be a fraudulent charge, or looking at your phone and suddenly seeing a text that something you thought was going to happen at a particular time is not going to happen, or you're running late. Those will tend to increase norepinephrine and epinephrine and adrenaline in your system. And if they're severe enough, you'll start getting some pulses of cortisol released from your adrenals throughout the day. But there's this normal, healthy, rising tide of cortisol that happens early in the day. And I say healthy because it wakes you up. It makes you feel alert. It makes you feel able to move and wanting to move and to go out your day for work, for exercise, for school, for social relations, etc. And something else important happens. A timer is set in your body and in your nervous system that dictates when a different hormone called melatonin, which makes you sleepy, will be secreted from a particular brain region. When you wake up in the morning and you experience that rise in cortisol, there's a timer, and these are cellular timers, and they're dictated by the relation between different organs in your body, that says to your brain and body that in about 12 to 14 hours, a different hormone, this hormone we're calling melatonin, will be released from your pineal gland. So there's 2 mechanisms here, a wakefulness signal and a sleepiness signal. And the wakefulness signal triggers the onset of the timer for the sleepiness signal. you have the capacity for what are called phase advances and phase delays. So if you get light exposure too late in the evening or in the middle of the night, it's going to make it hard to want to wake up the next morning early and to go to bed early. The opposite is also true. If you wake up early, say, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or even earlier, 4 a.m., and get light exposure, it will phase advance your clock. It's going to make your clock think it's earlier and you'll want to wake up earlier. So the simple way to think about this is if you're having trouble waking up early and feeling alert early in the day, you're going to want to try and get bright light exposure even before waking up because it will advance your clock. It's sort of like turning the clock forward. Whereas if you are having trouble waking up early, you definitely don't want to get too much light exposure or any light exposure to your eyes late in the evening and in the middle of the night because it's just going to delay your clock more and more. But there's a practice that I've adopted in the last 5 years that I've found to be immensely beneficial. It's a thing that they call yoga nidra. Yoga nidra actually means yoga sleep. And it's a sort of meditation that you listen to that allows you to consciously bring your entire body and mind into a state of deep relaxation. This is done for 10 to 30 or even 60 minutes at a time. It activates cells and circuits in your body that promote the parasympathetic nervous system or the calming system. A lot of people are not good at falling asleep because they're not good at calming down. Meditation and yoga nidra scripts have been immensely helpful for me in terms of accelerating the transition to sleep. So they involve taking a few minutes, 10 to 30 minutes or so, and just listening to a script almost passively. And it has you do some particular patterns of breathing and some other kind of body scan-like things that can really help people learn to relax, not just in that moment, but get better at relaxing and turning off thinking in order to fall asleep when they want to do that at night. There's another thing that's similar to this, which is certain forms of hypnosis for sleep that has a lot of science-supported, clinically supported hypnosis scripts that essentially take the brain into states of deep relaxation. The other thing about these practices like meditation, yoga nidra, and hypnosis is people always say to me, well, when should I do them? And I always say, well, the best time to do it is anytime you wake up in the middle of the night or any time of day. In other words, they're always good for you because it's a training mechanism by which you self-train your nervous system to go from a state of heightened alertness that you don't want to heightened relaxation that you do want. It's really teaching you to hit the brake. And that brings us to an even more important point, perhaps, which is we've all experienced that we can stay up if we want to, right? If we want to stay up late on New Year's or we want to push an all-nighter, some people can do that more easily than others, but we're all capable of doing that. But it's very hard to make ourselves fall asleep. And so there's a sort of asymmetry to there where we are more easily able to engage wakefulness and drive wakefulness. We can force ourselves to stay awake. Then we are able to force ourselves to fall asleep. And one of the things that I say over and over again is it's very hard to control the mind with the mind. When you have trouble falling asleep, you need to look to some mechanism that involves the body. And all the things I described, meditation, hypnosis, yoga nidra, all of those involve using the entire body and mind into a state of deep relaxation. It activates cells and circuits in your body that promote the parasympathetic nervous system or the calming system.